Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining episode 25 of the Anchor Group podcast. And we have a good one teed up for you today. Today, we have Jamie Royce joining us to talk about integration platforms. Jamie is the CEO and founder of MindCloud, which is an AI native iPaaS platform that is able to manage integrations with various software systems. So, if you're somebody who manages an e-commerce site, if you're into NetSuite, if you need to connect NetSuite or e-commerce to other platforms, then stay tuned because this is going to be a conversation that you're going to want to listen to. So let's dive right into it.
Hey, Caleb here with a quick interruption. Got a NetSuite headache that needed solved yesterday? Then don't sweat it and don't pull your hair out either, because we have something called our 30-minute fix. And that's exactly what it sounds like. 30 minutes with our NetSuite wizard, Mitch, who is there solving problems that are driving you crazy right now. Reports pulling wrong, workflows not working, CSV errors you can't explain. Get it fixed free of charge, no strings attached. Spots are limited, so go to anchorgroup.tech/30min fix. That's anchorgroup.tech/30min fix. Get it fixed and get back to your day. All right, now back to the episode.
Jamie, thanks for joining today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Michael. Great to be here. Excited to talk about integrations.
Yeah, I'm really glad we could connect on this. You know, from your team, Patrick and Tyler and I, we run into each other at trade shows and that sort of thing, been on calls together, working some deals. And so it's always enjoyable to meet other people from the company. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. I love talking about automating processes. Integrations has been something that's been really near and dear to me for my whole professional career. Before I was into programming, I would hate doing anything that required just the same thing over and over, copy and paste. I did a lot of administrative work, as my early career. So I figured out different macros and ways to automate things. So I've always loved this subject. Excited to be here and talk about it.
Fantastic. Well, we are excited to share your enthusiasm and your experience with the audience, everybody who tunes into the Anchor Group podcast. And so before we really dive in to what MindCloud is, what MindCloud does, and even just your history founding and starting and being the CEO of MindCloud, let's just take a quick 30,000 foot view, a 30,000 foot pass at MindCloud. So real quick here, what is MindCloud?
So MindCloud is a way to automate your entire tech stack. It's how to eliminate manual data entry from one system to the next. It's a way that you can have a holistic view of your entire company and not have to do swivel chair from one screen to the next to look at one system to get data here, look at your marketing data over here. Anything that you want to have across your entire organization, you can have an integrated view. Software integration is really simply taking separate things and combining them and making them all dance nicely together. So MindCloud is the orchestrator of all your software so that you can seamlessly grow and scale your business without having to grow your personnel and add more data entry staff. And that's actually how we first started. The first customer was somebody who had 2 full-time data entry staff, just copying and pasting orders from Walmart.com into Salesforce. And they expanded to Amazon. And then that person, they actually had to add a second one. So now they had 2, minimum wage full-time staff downloading the orders, uploading them into Salesforce. And as I told you before, I hate that. That's drives me crazy. People having to do the same thing over and over. And I offered this, who became our first customer. I said, if I can automate that for you, would that help you? How much is that worth to you? This is before MindCloud. This is when I was exploring, trying to find what the market needed. And he was describing this and he said, I would be on 20 marketplaces if I could. The only reason I'm not is because I can't afford to pay somebody to copy and paste from every marketplace. So me and my co-founder, DC Cacavella, he was working another job somewhere else as well. And we built this integration. It took, a few weeks and fully replaced these 2 full-time data entry staff. They went on to be able to be repurposed. And that customer went on to not only add those 20 marketplaces with us, but over the last 3 years, they grew 25 times their online sales. So that's kind of the start of MindCloud. That's why I love it, because we can empower our partners, give them the ability to compete with the big guys out there who have unlimited funds to pay engineers to automate everything. And, all the way from small and medium-sized businesses all the way up to enterprise, people can utilize this technology to streamline and automate all business processes.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love how you talked about the orchestration of that, right? How MindCloud allows you to be able to do all that, selling those marketplace. I mean, hey, if that's your first job or first project as a company, come on, you're off to a pretty good start there. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
we knew it was a winner, and believe me, that wasn't my first. It wasn't my first shot at running my own business and I wanted a software company. I knew I wanted to have some kind of company that utilized my skills that I've learned over the last 20 years. But I listened to the market, who was willing, who had a need, who was willing to pay for it. I was going down different avenues that people weren't willing to pay a lot for what I thought would be a great solution. And, listening to the market, it really was like ringing the bell, because not only did he need so many integrations, it just clicked. I had other friends who had big Amazon businesses where they're, top sellers on Amazon, and looking under the hood, they still were managing their entire inventory with Google Sheets. And they had teams of people like, don't touch the Google Sheet because it's going to break all of our integrations. I mean, they had things plugged into Google Sheet and it wasn't automated. So anyway, it's very interesting now, 3 years later, working with all the way up to, multi-billion-dollar publicly traded companies, and seeing under the hood that there's so many manual processes that are still just, people think that that's just how it has to be.
Yeah.
So I love kind of finding out what's going on and helping people streamline those processes.
Yeah. There's nothing like an extremely fragile Google Sheet or Excel doc that like you never want an intern or a new employee to touch, because everything could easily break. Right. I've been part of some conversations where people are like, no, do not touch that. Do not share that file with somebody, because we cannot have it break. So man,
It's
I
so funny.
understand. I understand what you're
Or it
saying
takes
there.
5 minutes to load, and then, because it's got so many things connected to it.
Yeah. And in today's world, right? So Anchor Group, right? We're an e-commerce and NetSuite agency. We help companies optimize their NetSuite environment, and, partnering with MindCloud, we can help companies, connect it to their e-commerce platforms, which we do some work in the e-commerce side of things as well. So, I know that's how at Anchor Group we find real value in integration platforms that are set up for success and are very intuitive to use. And I know a little bit later we're going to get into a quick high-level demo of your platform, so people who are watching this on YouTube, or if they're watching the video on Spotify or a different podcasting platform, they can get a sense and a feel for what the UI looks like and the ease of use. But before we hop into that, Jamie, you mentioned a little bit ago wanting to start companies and looking for opportunity in the market, looking for needs in the market. Kind of take us down memory lane a little bit, right? Before MindCloud, kind of what were you doing? What led to MindCloud? How did you get into the world of integrations? What did that all look like?
Well, go back 20 years. I was working in a mailroom, and I was in charge of cleaning up a mailing list after, you send out a big mailing and you get all the bad addresses coming back. You have to quickly update your list before the next mailing. There was no automated solutions back then. So I was working there. There was 20 other people all doing this project. It was supposed to take, 2 to 3 weeks to get all the bad addresses off the current list. And I just was sitting there and I'm looking at people literally do the same. Like, if you could have a robot, all you'd have to do is have them literally click the button, type it in over and over for 6-8 hours a day. Tedious, mind numbing. I went off to my office and I did some research. I'm like, there's got to be some solution to automate this. Like, if we only had a file of all the bad addresses, then I'm sure I could work out a way to look up the names in the database, automatically mark them. No APIs existed. There was no such thing back then. So I reached out to the USPS. I went down to the local headquarters. This is in Los Angeles, so we had access to a big hub. And they introduced me to, it was called the ACS address change service. And this is where you can get approved, connect to an FTP, and they'll download your full list of bad addresses or change of addresses. So it took me, 2 to 4 weeks to basically figure out how to connect that, build a little script. This is all using awk scripts, or direct database SQL queries to extract the data, look it up, and then a whole, hundreds of lines of SQL commands to get this done. But the end result was 20 people who were working 6 to 8 hours a day, fully replaced by my little automation that I built with the USPS. Back then, I was just blown away that you could use technology to get so much more done. And these hundreds of man hours now could be used for some other good. So that was it always stuck with me. For the rest of my professional career working for other people, I always tried to automate things and do things more efficiently so that I could have more leisure time to do what I wanted or things that I thought were more beneficial. Okay, so then I had the opportunity during COVID. I'm working a full-time job for a tax company that was they were then later bought by Avalara. And I was talking to my boss and I said, we're doing these integrations, we're doing API integrations and hiring these outside professionals and paying so much money to have them build these things that I could do. Is there any way I could just do it for you and you could save the $20,000 a year you're paying these consultants? And, when you're in a big corporation, there's all this red tape. It was like, no, not interested. Why don't you just do your thing, stay in your area? If you run out of work, fine. But it really frustrated me that, the technology existed, but a company wasn't willing to just incorporate that and be efficient and save money and all that. So on the side, I started to do some research and what could be something that's out there that's needed. I saw this firsthand, a company paying a lot of money for integrations. I knew I could do that. I was very interested in that. So started asking around friends and family, people who worked in businesses. And then I ran into that friend of mine who, through another company I was working at, who said, I need to get this process automated. I'm paying so much money to get these orders loaded into Salesforce. So it was really I was looking, I was asking a lot of questions, and I didn't go with the first thought. What I thought everybody needed was not actually what people needed and would be willing to pay for. So that was the beginning of the process.
And that is such an important distinction, I think, is that you're not just building a product that you think people want, right? As you've mentioned a couple times, you're identifying a need in the market and you're building a product that people need. And it sounds like right at one of those jobs, you maybe didn't have the autonomy or the ability within that role to go out and do that as part of that role. But you're finding the time. You're finding the time to find a way to fulfill the need. And so integrations, that the topic of integrations, does that really just interest you out of the idea that you're helping people save time, helping companies save money? Is that really what draws you to integration? Is it more that business process optimization, or is it more like the software side of things?
It's a little of both. Software has always been, I've always loved to work out, from my Commodore 64 back in the 80s when I learned how to type command prompts to run video games. I just, giving commands to a computer and having it do stuff or draw pictures was always just the magic. It's still magic. I mean, for 99% of the population, every piece of software is still magic. So I always wanted to have some software product that solved a problem people needed. And, I'm into business. It had to also be able to pay for itself. So in those early days, it was really who is willing to pay for something that I can deliver at a quantity that is more than what it takes me to build it. So the first year was a very difficult journey where very little people were willing to pay what I thought they should pay. Nobody wanted to pay a recurring charge for the thing. And it was like hunting around, trying to find who the right audience is, what's the right size company, where is the need big enough that it warrants that amount of money that will support building and managing something like that. So it took about a year, but after that first year, I got a seed round of funding. We built up a small team. And then rapidly within 3 months, we actually became profitable. We had a small team that was running, 10 or 15 staff, and the company was earning more than it was actually spending on a monthly basis, which was amazing.
Mhm. That's amazing, especially that quickly. You hear stories about companies and it takes years for them to hit that. But let me ask you a question going back a little bit. You said that first year. So when you started it that first year, were you still working your other job, or did eventually like a side hustle become your main thing? And what did that look like?
First 3 months, we're just kind of, noodling around, trying to find something that could be the potential of being my new career. And so it took about 3 months. I told my boss I'm going to be leaving, this was, I think, October 2022, gave some advance notice. And then it was very scary because that stable income is gone and you have to hustle on a monthly basis to replace that or not. And you pay yourself or not, depending on what the company does. So it was a good 7 or 8 months of that first year was the only job that I was doing, day and
Yeah.
night, weekends, every waking and unwaking hour was spent on that.
Yeah. The power of the hustle. I've heard it, termed as sometimes like I know there was a business leader one time who said sometimes being an entrepreneur feels a lot like just eating glass. And
Oh
it's
yeah,
but it's the power of the hustle, right? If you can kind of, push through, get through those first, couple of hard months for many
yeah.
companies, hard first couple of years, sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. And so let's kind of shift into getting to what MindCloud does. But now that people who are listening have an idea of the man behind MindCloud, right? The mind behind MindCloud. Let's get into what MindCloud actually does from a more practical perspective. So working in, and I want to tee this up in regards to like the NetSuite ERP ecosystem. So when we work with companies or when companies come to us and say, hey, we have NetSuite, we have it connected to an e-commerce website. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Maybe not a lot, but there's a couple different ways you can set that up using APIs, whether it be a direct integration or leveraging a middleware option. Can you kind of just for the audience today, kind of just set the record on the different ways you can do that, and then explain where does MindCloud fit into that?
Absolutely. So the original way is manual, where you get an order on Shopify and you go into NetSuite and you create a sales order. People still do that. Then you've got point-to-point integrations. This is where you've got a direct connection from your software to the other software. There's nothing in the middle. That's fine, and that works if you have something that is, you have a developer who can build it for you and maintain it for you. And as long as your requirements aren't going to change a lot. And, for growing businesses, that's not great because things are constantly changing. Um, and then you have a hub and spoke concept where you've got different software that each have connectors and they go to a central hub that allows you to standardize that communication between the systems and then really connect that with anything else. And that's where MindCloud fits in. It's a standard layer between software platforms that converts the language of your software into a universal language that can communicate with any other software or database or FTP site. And you don't have to worry about that translation. You don't have to worry if you are going point to point to NetSuite from NetSuite and Shopify. When Shopify last year switched from REST API to GraphQL API and everybody had to switch over before they sunset it, if you are on point to point, you've got to rebuild that entire integration from scratch, pay your developers again to rebuild it. You can't even reuse any of that. That's an entirely separate technology that was used. With MindCloud, we normalize every connector. So Shopify when it was on REST API, we very seamlessly switched it over to GraphQL API. And then the people that were our customers at that time, they didn't have to worry. Their integrations worked the same before and after. Our competitors, who I will not name in this call, had some very upset customers who found out that what they paid last year for their NetSuite Shopify connector, now they had to pay an additional professional services or an additional connector to get it onto the new Shopify GraphQL connector. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
very frustrating because it's already such a frustrating subject. I've had customers swearing on the phone with us about how frustrated they are when they found out that the last year's subscription just increased by 150% without any notice, and you're kind of stuck on something that you feel handcuffed and sort of kidnapped a little bit on those platforms that do that. So I knew there's definitely a need for the human touch, somebody who's going to take the headache away and make it simple. We have to make technology simple so everybody can benefit from it. So MindCloud's mantra is really take complex software technology and make it simple and understandable and easy to use, and then implement that in a way that the end user actually can understand it, be able to take advantage of it, and have it directly benefit their business.
Jamie, to bring that to fruition, right? If that's your mantra around the company, where do you see that impacting customers the most, right? That human element, that human touch. Is that truly in just making the software, which we'll see in a second in the demo, making that more user friendly, or is that within like the true personal touch that your sales team has, that your internal delivery team has, if you guys are setting up, like where have you seen as a business leader that personal touch be the most positive for your customers?
Yeah, this is so important. And that is the key differentiator between MindCloud and any of our competitors. With these other platforms, you end up getting so much software, all these features, you get a tool, and the customer is given the problem of setting it up, implementing it, understanding it, making adjustments to it. And it's a problem. It doesn't take the headache away, because literally every single one of them requires somebody on your team who is a developer, who is an integration specialist. Like you've got MuleSoft developers, Ciligo integration experts, the Jitterbit implementation team. They are specialists at setting up and managing your integration platforms. With MindCloud, you remove that level. That layer is not needed. You can directly with MindCloud or directly yourself do everything that you need on the platform. There's no need for an external third party to, be hired to build and set up and manage your integrations. The reason why that's possible is because we are the only integration platform that is actually on the market servicing customers at that level that is entirely AI native. We were created in the last 3 years. All the top 5 competitors were created 10 plus years ago. When they add AI to their marketing releases, you'll see it's more like a superficial layer or a chatbot that kind of integrates and talks to your system. But with AI built into every component of our platform, we can do some pretty magical things. I'll tell you one quick story, and then maybe I can show you a demo of it. One of our customers was looking at Workato. Workato's our best competitor. They're, one of my favorites. They, never have customer complaints. They're just a really good company. But one of our customers was told by Workato that it's going to take 3 months for them to add the Cantata app. I never heard of it. It's some kind of project management tool that's out there. There's so many. There's, you're going to constantly run into apps you've never heard. So their rep said 3 months and we can have that on our platform. Please sign here to sign up with Workato. So they were shopping around, and I was not prepared for this. I joined the demo call, and we had just released our AI import tool where you can take a new app's API documentation and import them straight into our back end and have it create the app for you and all the possible endpoints on that app. So, you know how new demos go, you think they're going to go horribly. Well, I lucked out. This one was pretty amazing. So within 45 minutes, I was given the API documentation live in the call. I imported it while we were on this call. We created the app, created the actions on that app, had them authenticate with their own user and password in MindCloud, and we built the workflow that they needed in 45 minutes. So something that our best competitor was going to take 3 months for, we not only added the app, but built the workflow that they wanted within 45 minutes.
Wow. That's an amazing use case.
It was
Like
wild.
legitimately, that's a powerful testimony to AI being as you said, native, right, to the MindCloud tool, or just ingrained in MindCloud. Would you mind if we take a look at that? I know you had I mean, if it's that powerful, let's take a look under the hood a little bit, right? Now, as we're kind of transitioning to the demo, as you were building MindCloud, where was AI on your radar? Right? Are you thinking like during, prior to launch of MindCloud and this sort of thing, are you thinking like, okay, like there needs to be an integration platform that leverages AI in a clear, consistent, concise way that makes it super usable? Or is this like, when did AI dawn on your radar as you were developing and creating this company?
It was about a year into the kind of core. We were doing everything in code. There was no platform like I'm about to show you. Everything was, and this is even before MindCloud. This is when it was me as an LLC doing work as a hustle, building API integrations all in code. So it was after having, we had maybe 200 different integrations that we had built, all eCommerce, all eCommerce related. And OpenAI released, obviously took the world by storm. We
Right.
were one of the first developers on their developer program. So it was within a month of that launch, we were already building with OpenAI inside our platform. Now, we're not only OpenAI, just for anybody listening, we support any model and we use several different models inside our platform. But we've been kind of riding the wave. Every time there's a new release, we incorporate that. We constantly update. We have AI embedded in 44 different components under the hood that are doing different things, from the one I'm about to show you, where it helps you to import API documentation and create an app, to in the back end, optimizing the resources that we use on AWS based on the actual workflow when it's running, how many resources, how big is it, and then we grow or shrink the resources we use so that we can be more efficient on AWS. So there's so many things I could talk about. Let me dive in and show you this one. So what I'm about to show you is our app screen. So this is how we create new apps when we're helping new customers, or some of our enterprise customers have access to the screen and they can build their own apps as well. So a few weeks ago, somebody wanted to add some very exotic Mailchimp endpoints that I had never heard of. I'll show you the process here. So Mailchimp, to add this app to our platform, click on documentation, added their API documentation link. So this is the actual public URL to their API documentation.
Okay, so Jamie, you are pulling a public URL. You're not needing to upload PDFs of documentation, literally just pulling a public URL?
That's right. Any public URL. In fact, if we wanted to, we can literally scrape every API that's publicly available and auto build every app. And
here's what I'll say is, before you continue on this, if you're listening to this right now and you're like me, right? Where a lot of companies speak about, hey, we have AI in our tooling now. We have AI in this and that, but you never really know what it is. We're getting a firsthand look right now at what AI actually looks like in the MindCloud platform, which I appreciate because I think it's different. It's kind of anomaly based on kind of the way other companies are saying they have AI. So no, it's good stuff, Jamie, and appreciate you showing it to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a sneak peek under the hood. Most people aren't going to see this on any demo. But this is how we're able to actually build apps extremely fast. What I'm showing you here is we've scraped the API documentation site, extracted all the different sections, all the different actions that are possible on the Mailchimp app. And what it did was it proposed almost 400 separate API calls that could be made. And that's anything from the simple things like, creating an email, sending out emails, all the way, as you can see on the left, there's hundreds of things that who knew that MailChimp allowed you to do all these things with their app. But any of our customers who want enterprise grade integrations with MailChimp or any other app, you literally can have access to every single endpoint on that app in minutes. If you try to use a low code tool like Zapier or Make, you're not going to have access to every single endpoint that's possible. You'll have access to 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 of the most popular things that you could do, these little actions that you'll get. With our platform, we have the ease of use of a Zapier or a Make.com, but the production value of an enterprise integration platform. We have all the security. We've just passed our SOC 2 audit this past year. We're live with almost 1 billion workflows in production for our customers. That's 1 billion separate things that are, the core of a business. Anyway, just to get back to this, I'll show you one example. So list campaign recipients, some exotic endpoint from Mailchimp. What this did was imported from their API documentation what parameters are required, what are the query options for filters, things like that, the exact endpoint that you need to call for the API. And all of that was done with AI. Now, this is proposed to us. A human now would review, curate, test every single one, make sure that it actually is production worthy. But you can see, if I was to hand code every single one of these API endpoints, this would have taken 3 months. And that's why our best competitors tell their customers it's going to be 3 months to add a new app to our no-code platform. But now any customer using MindCloud can build their own workflows. They can come in here, go into a workflow here, and use any of those apps that are now created. So I'll just show you here. You can see Mailchimp there. Now you've got access to all of those endpoints right there. You could pull those in, connect it to your Mailchimp account, and then instantly do whatever you want to in this low-code environment.
Now, that's impressive, but I have to ask. At Anchor Group, we work a lot with BigCommerce and with Shopify. Anchor Group is a Shopify agency partner. So could you show us an example of how MindCloud could work, between NetSuite and BigCommerce or NetSuite and Shopify, and how a customer of yours could leverage some of those AI features as part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. NetSuite is our most popular connector, just to be straight. So we get a lot of NetSuite customers, a lot of unhappy NetSuite customers because of their earlier connectors. The reason why is because there's black boxes on almost every other platform. It's built to do one thing. And if you only want that one thing, you're going to be happy. Just use the NetSuite connector out of the box, sync your orders to Shopify and NetSuite, no problem. But the second you need anything slightly different, you are not going to be a happy camper, because you're going to need to customize it, hire a developer, hit a roadblock where you find out that you can't do that. With some of the competitors, you've just got an app itself with no capability of tweaking and adjusting every step. With MindCloud, I'll show you our NetSuite and Shopify template, which anybody can use. You can log on, create an account, and download this recipe right into their account. This one is I just did this before the call. This is pulling from our recipe page. So from MindCloud, when you create a new account, you go to recipes. Then you can see here are thousands of recipes. These are pre-built workflows that you can use as a template. You don't have to reinvent the wheel if we've already built it. So went down, let's find Shopify. you can see here, like every possible app that you can think of, Salesforce, Samsara, SendGrid, ServiceTitan, ShipBob, ShipHawk, etc. Anything you could think of. If we've had a customer needing it, it's on our platform. If you're a customer out there and you need something that's not on our platform, we can have that added and build it for you very fast. So here's Shopify. Here's hundreds of Shopify recipes that you can apply to your own account. So the one I'm going to show you really quick is NetSuite and Shopify. Show you how easy it is. So from the top to the bottom, our workflows run always starting with a trigger. So you can have something run on a schedule, or you can have them started by a webhook. So on MindCloud, there's a free forever tier where you can build, test, use MindCloud up to 100 production API calls per month. But you have unlimited time to build and test when it's not actually published. So if you come up here, you create a webhook, you can use this webhook, go ahead and put it in Postman, do some testing, and it will send data directly into this. You can catch that webhook and then have that pass along in a workflow, respond back to the webhook, or use a schedule, which is something that just runs every hour or any interval you want. So after you get through setting up how you want to trigger it, then every step is just basically prepping the data. This one's getting orders from Shopify. This happens to be using their GraphQL endpoint because Shopify does not support their REST API anymore. So step 2 is preparing the Shopify request. You don't have to edit this, but if you want to, you could go in and customize your exact query. This is an example of something you can't do on other platforms. You don't have access to the raw code behind every API call. With MindCloud, you have access to every single raw piece of code that's making a call, that's making a request, that's doing formatting, mapping. You do not have to have a black box that you just are in mystery about what it's actually doing. So then just to walk you through, step 3 is making the request from Shopify, getting all the orders. Then it's going to loop through all those orders one by one. Check, does that order exist in NetSuite? This is all low code. By the way, we just released our full no code NetSuite connector. This is something that every single action that you could imagine needing to do on NetSuite, you could now do with a no code tool. So once you're connected, you can get the order, look up the order, filter things. You can use saved searches, import things from CSV, load them into NetSuite. All things you can imagine are now fully capable with our no-code NetSuite connector. Anyway, you can see your complex conditional logic. If something, then this, otherwise that. Sub loops inside already existing loops. This is not possible on Zapier, not really possible on Make. Yes, you could do this on Jitterbit or Celigo, but it would be very complex and you'd have to split it up into about 5 separate workflows. So it's another benefit on MindCloud. You don't need to pay for 5 separate workflows when you're trying to sync orders from Shopify to NetSuite. On other platforms, you have to sync the item, you have to sync the customer, you have to sync the invoice. Right. All these things are separate flows. On our platform, you can just check, does the invoice exist? If not, create it. Does the customer exist? If you want to use a default customer, go ahead and use that. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and create the customer on the fly and then attach the sales order directly to that customer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just show you one last thing. So for example, if you want to use AI to build a step. So here you can see top right is the input from the earlier step. On the left is a custom code block, and on the bottom right is the output. So let's say you want to write a custom step to format data and create a random number or something like that. So let's say create a random number that is 10 digits long and return this as random number. So you tell it, just like using any AI tool, you can chat back and forth. What are you trying to do? In its context, it has the whole workflow. So you can refer back to earlier steps. You can say, take the incoming information from one system, map it for me based on what you think would be the best mapping. It will propose the mapping between NetSuite and Shopify for you, and then you can just tweak it. So here it generated a random number and returned this random number. So every time I run this, I would have a new random number that I could use. That could be built into a workflow. Anything you can imagine that you can do in code, you can do in one of our custom code blocks. You'd say, also add a ISO string date for today. You want a
So
special.
that's AI just running behind the scenes, creating that all for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least the first draft of it, right? As you've said, we still, I got to go and have a human look at it and vet it out, read through it. But the
That's
AI's
right.
doing the initial heavy lifting.
That's right. So you basically we don't believe in having AI autonomy. Everything, as you've seen, is proposals, suggestions, and how to do things better. And it's going to give recommendations. It always requires a human to verify and just take that difficult work, do it for you, and then propose how it's going to look. So that's kind of throughout all of our AI components. It's doing things that are safe, but proposing things where you don't want the computer to decide for you.
Right. Yeah. And I think that from the conversations I've had, that seems like the healthy ground that people are standing on today with AI, where they still need to have a human mind behind the end product. But I know a lot of people who are leveraging AI tools to do a lot of the heavy lifting, especially some of that initial heavy lifting, without taking like the human touch out of it, let's say. So
Absolutely.
that's some powerful stuff. Very cool how AI is native within the MindCloud system. And now you've given us a wonderful demo of kind of what that actually looks like. So, hey, if you're driving a car or something and you're listening to this, I'd encourage you, if this is interesting, go back and listen to that section, watch it. Jimmy does a great job of actually showing how AI actually is in the system, not just talking at a high level about, this ghost in the room AI that will have some magical abilities on your system. No, the demo showed at a really good level how AI is actually involved in the system. So if you missed that because you're driving or something, by all means, it's probably worth going back and watching. Now, Jimmy, one of the last things I want to chat about is, I'm connected with yourself and the company on LinkedIn, MindCloud, and I see you guys announcing a lot of interesting partnerships that you're, striking up in the integration industry. So just curious if you would want to highlight a couple of those and talk to people about how you're leveraging some of those partnerships.
Yeah. So partnerships are incredible because, for one, we're helping other companies with problems that they don't want to deal with. Integrations is our specialty. We do it really well. We do it really fast. We're a lot less expensive than our competitors because of all the AI native components. It allows us to spend more time on the human element, the support, the onboarding, the customer service process. So our partners, one of our partners that we recently announced is Rhythm. They were the company that purchased Channel Advisor, Commerce Hub, Disco. I'm sure everybody's heard of them. So this partnership is really great because complex integrations like NetSuite and Rhythm that come to Rhythm, they don't have to be handled by an internal team that maybe is overloaded with product releases. Their development team can stay focused on making their product better for their customers and let a partner like MindCloud handle connecting Rhythm to whatever their customers need. Anything that Rhythm doesn't have out of the box, MindCloud can support. It's the same with all of our partners. We've got quite a number of incredible partners. We've partnered with a lot of 3PLs, a lot of WMSs. Legiwa is one of our partners. ShipHawk, ShipBob, Orderful for EDI integrations. But it's really important that we're a good, harmonious relationship with our partners where we know what we do well, we know what they do well. So if we've got customers coming to us for something that one of our partners does better, we just send them along to our partner and vice versa. And most of the times we end up integrating whatever that customer needs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely anybody listening out there. We've recently released our partnership program, so it's on our website. you can sign up to be a partner. There's also different incentives for people that want to refer business to MindCloud. We have that whole kind of referral program set up now. But yeah, partnerships is what has kind of propelled us in the last year. We became profitable as a company last month. After our first time we were profitable was about a year in, but we just broke cash flow positive last month as well. And about 50% of our sales comes from partners.
Yeah, partnerships are, I mean, as your testimony to, right? Partnerships are very powerful. And specifically being an integration platform with so many partners, I think from the client side, right, from somebody who manages a business that needs integrations, I think it's also a good testament to show just there's proof in the pudding, right? As the old adage goes, or there's there's an example of or a reason why you guys have strong partnerships within the ecosystem. So here's what I'll say as we kind of wrap this up. For anybody listening, Jamie, what would you say is like the one biggest takeaway that you would want somebody listening to this to remember as they, walk into work this morning or go into the office tomorrow? What's one big takeaway you think that they should leave with, just to as it pertains to MindCloud?
Integrations are a headache. MindCloud is the Advil. We're going to take that headache away. We're going to make it so you can do what you're trying to do without the headache of integrations, the complexity, the cost, the time that it takes, and the frustration. So if you don't want all of that and you'd like to still do what you're trying to do, make your business goals, partner up with MindCloud. Let us take the integration burden off your plate so that you can do what you do best, and let us do what we do best.
There you go. And I will say, from the agency perspective here at Anchor Group, we are a BigCommerce agency partner. We're a Shopify agency partner. We work on SuiteCommerce in the NetSuite ecosystem as well. And running into integrations or companies, clients, prospects of ours that need integrations, we see MindCloud also being a very viable option for many of the reasons that Jamie went into today, especially since AI is so native to the MindCloud environment. It can be a real benefit to many companies. So, Jamie, if people want to learn more about MindCloud or connect with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
The best, go to our website, mindcloud.co. There's a big button in the center. Jump on a call with one of our teams. Or if you want to try out the platform for free, it is available if you go to our website or go straight to our app. It's app.mindcloud.co. Go right there and you can just sign up. There's no cost to sign up, no credit card required to try it out. And you get up to 100 API calls per month, free forever. And you can build, develop as much as you want. There's no limit to any of our apps. Everything that I showed you on this demo, you could do. You can build your own Shopify and NetSuite integration if you want to try it out yourself, or have us help you. We have a white glove service, which is what is most popular. People don't want to deal with it. They just tell us what they're trying to do. We build it out and manage it for them. So either way, reach out to us and we'll definitely help you. Of course, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Jamie, thank you for taking some time to chat with us on the Anchor Group podcast today. I hope everybody listening is able to take something away. You're able to share a lot of expertise, advice, and did a wonderful demo of the platform. So thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
And for all of you listening, if you have questions, feel free to check out the show notes or drop a comment if you're watching us on YouTube. And be sure to tune in next time to the Anchor Group podcast, where we'll continue to talk about NetSuite and e-commerce related topics to help you scale and grow your business to the next level.
Hey, Caleb here with a quick interruption. Rather than getting sponsored by a mattress company or some VPN, we decided to sponsor ourselves. And that's why I want to talk to you about our 30-minute NetSuite fix, is where one of our team members will be able to sit down with you for 30 minutes to solve that one thing that's been driving you crazy. At least we'll figure out a path on how to solve it. But there are a number of things that we can solve there, right there on a call with you. It is free, no strings attached. So go to anchorgroup.tech/30-minute fix, get it fixed, and get back to your day.